Hello everyone, and today we are back for another Loomian Legacy Top 5 video, and we're going to be ranking all of the Yokai Loomians from worst to best. So in a very recent update, they added 4 new Yokai Loomians in the Haiwa village, and honestly, they are all pretty solid, but which one is the best and which one is the worst? So let's head right onto this list. Number 4 onto this list, and the worst Yokai Loomian is Byward. Byward is okay. It has pretty good bulk on both sides, and its move pool is fine. But the problem is that its stats and its move pool doesn't really help it out that much. If you're wondering what this thing looks like in the Haiwa village, this is what it looks like. You click on this item, and that should activate the Loomian. So, how is Byward in PvP? Well, it's not that good. It has Hypnotize and Peace of Mind, but Dusket and Cosmere are both better Hypnotized Loomians. And this thing is a Mind typeless type, which is not a great defensive typing. Mind is already one of the worst defensive typings in Loomian Legacy, so when you get rid of the resistances with the typeless type, this only has 1 resist and 3 weaknesses, and those 3 weaknesses being to Bug, Spirit, and Dark. All of them very common, but why is Byward at least decent? I know I have been rather negative toward Byward, but there is one saving grace with this Loomian. It's its ability, Motivational. With the motivational ability, you go on the field, and it's kind of like a Bane of Haste setting ability, but it stays alive for the whole time. And when the motivational is up, moves cost less energy, which is awesome. It really is helpful for stall teams and wall-breaking teams alike, and this Loomian might just be worth using just by its motivational ability alone. But despite that, it doesn't really have anything else, and that's why it's the worst Loomian on this list. The number 3 Yokai Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy is Parasol. Parasol is miles better than Byward, and the reason is why is because this thing hits like a truck. It's a melee attacking Loomian that hits extremely hard. This is probably the hardest hitting Loomian on the list. With Revolution, you hit really hard, and that's what the prop looks like. If you touch that, that's how you activate Parasol. So, Parasol's awesome. There are a couple flaws that do hold it back, though, and it's mainly its defensive typing. Its defensive typing really isn't that good. It's basically Cephalops' typing, Water Dark, but it has 5 weaknesses, which is very rough for a Loomian that doesn't have the bulk like Cephalops. I mean, its bulk's good, its melee bulk is good, but its range bulk really isn't that good. And with the Do or Die ability, you actually recoil yourself, which, by the way, the Do or Die ability is basically Life Orb as an ability, meaning this thing not only hits really hard with its 113 melee attack, but it also gets boosted by 30%, which is amazing. Yes, it does get rid of your health, but if you play this thing really well, this thing can hit like a truck. This thing also has Slapdown utility, Soulstorm utility, and Horror utility as well. And it has Bulk Up. Now, the reason why this is number 3 and not number 2 or number 1 is mainly because of its low speed stat. I mean, 74 speed isn't bad, but it's too fast to be used under Bane of Haste, and too slow to be relatively fast. The only way you can properly use Parasol correctly is using a Baffle Loomian, which is kind of hard to set up sometimes. But overall, Parasol hits like a truck, and it definitely deserves to be number 3 on this list. Number 2 onto this list is going to be Redor. Redor is probably the toughest Loomian to name. I mean, that name is rather weird to say. But this Loomian is very interesting. It has the fastest speed stat out of all the Yokai Loomians with 113, and it has very good health and very good range bulk. If you're wondering what the prop looks like to encounter Redor, this is the item, it's the little green thing on the right, and that's how you activate it and hunt it in the wild. Now, this thing has a very interesting typing. Toxic. It's basically Toxic Ancient. It's a really interesting typing because offensively, it's solid, and defensively, it's hit or miss. It's solid offensively because it can hit a lot of different Loomians, but it doesn't necessarily do amazing work, at least compared to some of the other offensive typings in the game. But this thing also has Augment, Enchants, Energy Break, which is a brand new Ancient type move, and decent coverage. It also has Peace of Mind set up as well. This is definitely a very good late game cleaner, but you have to run Smart Nimble because this thing only has 99 ranged attack. So you do need the extra damage with Smart in order for this thing to actually hit hard. But with Soul Siphon, if you get a +1 boost, you can be very dangerous as a late game cleaner. You could also use this as a Gobble Spurt Loomian and stall the opposing Loomian's team with Enchant. This thing also has fadeaway pivot, which it can utilize on the defensive set. Redor has a lot of good options to run, but it falls just short of the #1 spot. The best Yokai Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy is Land Torch. And I know what everyone is thinking. This is by far the best Yokai Loomian. And yes, it is. But I was actually debating about putting this thing #2 because of Redor's ability and support role. But Land Torch hits like an absolute truck. If you're wondering on how to get Land Torch, that's the item. It's a little red thing on the top of my head, and that's how you encounter Land Torch in the wild. But this Loomian is awesome. With the flare ability, this thing hits like a truck. And unlike Parasol, this Loomian has a way faster speed stat of 93. It isn't amazing, but if you run 93 nimble with boots, this thing can outspeed a lot of threats. And you're using very powerful flares, because unless you get hit, flare does 140 damage. And I know what you're thinking. Plant types can wall you. You have Fire Breath and Spectral Burst to hit those plant types. And while there are a couple Loomians that can hard wall Land Torch, like Tyranix, Luminami, and Jalusa, you can hit a lot of Loomians really hard, even on a resisted hit. The best way to get rid of Land Torch is to honestly stall it down with hazards and make it KO itself with the Do or Die ability, but even then, it's really hard to do because this thing hits so hard. You gotta hit Land Torch first in order to deactivate the flare ability. And even better, this thing has Flash and Flee Pivot, meaning it can give momentum to its teammates. And that's why Land Torch is the best Yokai Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. And here it is, Yokai, the best Yokai Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. So yeah, Land Torch is awesome, and it definitely deserves #1 on this list. I hope you guys enjoyed this top 5 list. If y'all disagree with my list, please tell me in the comments below, because all of the Yokai Loomians are pretty good in their own right. So, with that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all all later. Bye-bye!